What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Dude Hine Show. Today is July 9th, 2021. I have a special guest joining me today. He's the Conference USA all-time assists leader. He's the all-time points leader in Conference USA. He's pretty much broke all the records at Marshall University, like points, assists, three-pointers made. I have Jon Elmore on the show. How you doing today, Jon?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on the show. I'm a big-time Marshall fan. I actually have my Marshall, jersey on right now. We have a lot to talk about, throughout your Marshall career, and you're actually in on the Herd That team, there in the TBT, next week. So, starting off your early age of your career, when your childhood, who are some of your favorite players and some of your favorite teams growing up?
Steve Nash was always one of my favorite players. Chris Paul, um, Steph Curry, LeBron. So a lot of the stars you see in the NBA now, some of the older guys I kind of grew up watching and modeling my game after.
Yeah, you mentioned Steve Nash, and during your Marshall career, Steve Nash was really somebody I kind of thought you were very similar to in playing style. He was actually somebody who was a part of the D'Antoni system as well, in the NBA. And before you started at Marshall, you actually started off your basketball career at VMI, and your dad Gay Elmore was a VMI legend. How big of an impact was your dad's success at VMI that ultimately led you going to school there?
It was huge. I grew up just my dad always working me out, always being in the gym with me, always coaching me. So he was one of the first people to learn the game from, and I was able to pick up a lot of stuff from him and kind of take what he could do as a player and kind of put that into my game as well. So he was huge for me growing up as a player and a person.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, you spent some time at VMI, but you're actually transferred to Marshall, and it's kind of an interesting story. For the listeners who don't know, can you kind of tell the reasoning why you left VMI and went to Marshall and everything?
So I was at VMI for the first couple months of the year before the season had started, and my grandfather got really sick, terminally ill. Um, Really bad situation health wise for him. So my brother and I were at VMI. We ended up leaving. We were living with him for a little bit, helping taking care of him, being back at home with him his last few months of living. I ended up just enrolling at Marshall because it was the closest school to my house, only about 45 minutes away from where I lived. So I ended up enrolling at Marshall out of nowhere. Met with Coach D'Antoni once I was in school there. He gave me kind of a tryout, and then the rest was history after that.
Yeah, you actually kind of mentioned, your brother. He was with you at VMI and Marshall. What was it like playing, with your older brother throughout your college career?
It was a great experience. It's someone that I trust a lot. I value his basketball ability and his basketball mind. So having him there to push me and push each other. We ended up living together in college, so that's living with one of your best friends. So it was a great experience to share that with family, and then having him out there with me or on the bench with me added to my game a lot and was really valuable.
That's really cool, and that's something not a whole lot of athletes can say, especially one school, let alone two schools with VMI and Marshall. And Marshall, I'm a huge Marshall fan. I'm actually from Huntington, West Virginia. There's lots of good restaurants, on Marshall's campus. Did you have any like favorite restaurants on campus, anything like that?
Ooh, Fat Patties for a little while. Calamity J now. Hall of Fame, Herd Cafe, and then I'd say probably my favorite was Taste of Asia. That's my go-to.
I don't think I've ever had Taste of Asia, but to me right now, I would definitely probably say Calamity J's. I also liked Hudson's a lot before, that's basically out of business and
Hmm.
stuff. And a question here from friend Braden. Was that true? Can you talk about your 100-point game at the Rec Center?
Yeah, the year I was sitting out was the first year I had enrolled at Marshall. I had to sit out a year before I got eligible. I was playing intramural basketball and ended up hitting 33 threes in a game, scored 101 points. So my last bucket of the game was a layup. But it was a cool experience. It was kind of when I burst onto the scene at Marshall. That was my first real basketball experience, was intramural hoops. So it was a cool, weird start to my career.
That is crazy. I mean, that's something that probably has not happened many times before. And I mean, you've broke just tons of records at Marshall. For example, the 2018 season, you helped Marshall win its first ever NCAA tournament win. What was it like doing something at Marshall that has never happened before in school history?
That was my goal when I got to Marshall, was just talking to my friends and family about what I wanted my career to be like, and how I wanted it to shape out. And, making the tournament was a goal of mine as a little kid playing in March Madness. Marshall hadn't been in, I think it was 31 years. So breaking that barrier and getting Marshall back to the big dance, winning a game, those are two of my most memorable moments at Marshall, was winning the conference tournament and then upsetting Wichita State.
Yeah, both those games, you were absolutely loud, lights out. I mean, you had tons of threes. I mean, you, Burks, and Penova, huge parts, of that success. And before you really got to Marshall, it kind of seems like, Marshall was just a football school, with, Pennington, Leftwich, all those guys. But as you went to Marshall, by the time you left, they became a household name of basketball. They were one of the better teams in the conference, one of the more underrated teams in the country. And senior night in 2019, this is something very interesting. I was actually at the game. You actually got to propose to your girlfriend, Tori Dent. How nervous were you proposing not only to your girlfriend, but to your girlfriend in front of thousands of fans?
Man, shoot, that was a huge moment for me. I'm not gonna lie, I teared up a little bit when it was going on, but don't tell Tori that. And just I was kind of shaken, but I mean, Tori, now my wife, we have a little baby together, so that was probably the best moment of my Marshall career, was proposing to her. She said yes. Thankfully, I don't think I would have been able to play the game if she would have said no. And then I started the game like 0 for 7 with 2 air balls. So I was like, oh, man, this was a terrible decision. But we came back and won the game, so it worked out well.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And it just goes to show how many different things you've accomplished, throughout your Marshall career and, during your time in Huntington. So what would you say was more, nerve-wracking, proposing to your girlfriend in front of thousands of fans, or playing in an NCAA tournament?
Proposing to my girlfriend. The other basketball was just kind of natural to me. I hadn't done that before. So I'll say that one.
Throughout your Marshall career, you've broke pretty much just about everything, it seems like, when it comes to shooting and assists and everything like that. So is there a particular record that, you've broke that's your favorite?
I'd say the assist record. Just because everybody likes to say I'm a scorer, stuff like that. I'm a shooter, but to get assists, you have to be able to find your teammates, and you have to have a lot of good teammates. So that's one thing I was blessed with at Marshall, was had a lot of great teammates, high-level players, who not only put me in a lot of great positions and always had my back, but I always had their back too. So I was just lucky to have the teammates and the personnel that we did.
I mean, yeah, you're definitely, a Marshall legend. I would say definitely the best Marshall player of all time. Not really even debatable. I mean, you had a fantastic career at Marshall. But, during your time at Marshall, you were actually coached by, former NBA assistant coach Dan D'Antoni. What were some things you learned from D'Antoni that you believe have helped you throughout your basketball career so far?
I'd say the biggest thing was just off the court, how to separate basketball and life in general, and just to enjoy every step of the process. Everybody's always so focused on getting somewhere that they don't always enjoy the ride. And he taught me to enjoy every step of the process, and that life's a lot bigger than basketball. But he definitely had a huge impact on me, and I owe him a lot.
Yeah, the past couple of seasons you've actually been, playing overseas. Can you talk about, what it's been like playing overseas and how much, different the style of play is over there compared to here?
Yeah, it's been a good start to my career so far. I've been happy with it. I'm getting ready to go into year 3 now, so I'm blessed to be able to just play basketball for a living. Basketball pays my bills, so that's something that I dreamed of as a kid, was playing professionally. My goal is still one day to play in the NBA, but everybody has a different route. So we'll see if it works out in the long run, but that's the goal. Overseas basketball is a totally different style of play, a lot more physical. They have a couple different rules, so the game play is a little bit different, like no defense in 3 seconds, stuff like that. It's a grind playing overseas. It's different than the NBA, different than college, but I've liked it so far and I enjoy it.
It's really cool to see some players. For instance, former Marshall player Hassan Whiteside. He was drafted in the NBA, played overseas for multiple years, then was signed by the Heat and had a huge extension, everything like that. It's getting paid millions of dollars now. It's really cool to see players work their way up and everything like that. Hopefully that works out for you and stuff. I mean, you definitely should be in the NBA. I mean, you're one of the best scorers I've seen. And last season, with the coronavirus and everything, not just in the U.S. but overseas as well. Can you talk about how difficult overseas it was playing while the coronavirus and everything like that?
It was tough just because a lot of people had to deal with the constant stops and the starts and the quarantines and the days off from practice and the constant testing every day or every week. So it was definitely a curveball, but I was lucky that we finished the season. I was healthy. My family stayed healthy. Had a successful year. We made the playoffs over there, which was big. So, hopefully we're getting to the end of this thing and hopefully we can get back to normal. But it was good to just get through it and stay healthy.
That's the main thing. I mean, basketball is fun and stuff, but healthy, and family like that is much more important than basketball. And for people who have not really seen you play much, can you kind of tell some of our listeners your style of play and maybe some comparisons you would compare yourself to from players in the NBA?
I'd say similar to like Steve Nash. That was the guy that I always kind of modeled my game after. Modern day NBA is kind of similar to guys that I model my game after. I love Steph. I love Mike Conley. So those are guys that I take little things from my game and I see similarities with them. And, you try to be on their level or above their level one day. So that's my goal.
Yeah, you mentioned Nash. Nash to me is somebody I kind of mentioned earlier. It reminds me, of a lot of yourself and also somebody else. I kind of think James Harden because he can shoot the 3 ball, but he also gets to the line a lot. And when you get to the line, quite a bit. When you play and everything. And the last year, and actually the year prior, you were part of Heard That, and you ended up actually being in the elite, the final 8 last season. Can you tell some of our listeners, who don't know much about the TBT, about your team and everything like that?
Yeah, the TBT is a 64-team single elimination tournament. The winning team wins $1 million+. So we decided to go in the route of kind of becoming an alumni team. So our base of guys, I think we have 5 or 6 guys that graduated or went to Marshall. One of our key focuses is to put Marshall on ESPN and put them on the map, just because Marshall did a lot for us. So it's kind of our way of giving back to Marshall. And then we kind of use some guys that I played pro ball with. They're playing with us as well to add a little bit of size. We haven't had a ton of size at Marshall. So we had to kind of seek out a little bit of help for our big men. But, our goal is to win the $1 million. It's a highly competitive tournament with a bunch of alumni teams and a bunch of just kind of overseas professional all-star teams as well.
The TBT, it's a type of league that's getting bigger each year, and you all were great last season, and on your team this year, you actually now have former Marshall big guy James Kelly. How important was it to get Kelly on your team to get some more big man presence?
It was huge for us. James was a first-team All-Conference, Conference USA guy. Good friend of a lot of ours on the team. Guy that I've kept in contact with since we played together at Marshall. So, good friend of mine. We're excited to play together again. I haven't seen him in like 4 years, 3 or 4 years it feels like. So, it'd be good to kind of catch back up with him, but get back out on the court together.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to see, you, Kelly, and Browning all on the court again. And, something I thought was very interesting, I heard it a couple weeks ago. You were actually recruited by West Virginia's, alumni team. Can you talk about that, how all that went down?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some pretty good friends that play for the West Virginia alumni team. They just kind of asked me if I was interested in playing a couple years ago. And this was kind of when we were getting our team together and organized, so I had to turn them down and stick with my guys. But it's a big rivalry. The fans don't really like each other, but a lot of the players get along really well. We have good relationships with them, so we all mess with each other. But at the end of the day, we're all pretty cool.
On a podcast I saw, Jon Elmore, your older brother, was talking about you actually considered, leaving Heard That. Did you actually consider leaving Heard That for the West Virginia alumni team?
No, never. Not in a million years.
That would just be so weird to see. I mean, I would want you to do good, but, I'm a diehard Marshall fan. I couldn't root for you to win, but I'd hope you play good if that would ever happen. But, I cannot wait for the TBT and everything. But TBT is actually starts for your all's team next Saturday. You are one of the best returning teams, from last season. Like I mentioned, you get a major addition on your team from getting James Kelly. So if you all end up, winning the TBT, what will you do with your cash earnings?
Probably put it in the bank. I've got a daughter, a wife now. Can't just buy all kinds of crazy stuff anymore. Kind of got a plan for the future. So either put it in the bank or we might invest and buy a house.
So can you tell some of the listeners, where they can find your games, and everything like that?
Yeah, so for the TBT coming up, all the games are on ESPN. July 17th, we play at noon Eastern time. Hopefully we can pack the Civic Center up and have a great crowd. But as for overseas next year, I don't know where I'll be playing yet, so it's kind of hard to talk about that.
I cannot wait for the TBT next Saturday. You all have, home court advantage, playing in Charleston, just about 45 minutes away from Huntington. It's going to be a huge benefit for you all throughout, the TBT games and stuff. Very much looking forward, to those games. So, John, can you tell some of the listeners we can follow you on social media?
Yeah. So my Twitter is Elmore33. Instagram, you can just find me as Jon Elmore. I'm always on there, messing around, having a good time, posting to my family, stuff like that. So definitely check me out on social media.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put the links in the description below. Also, the description, for the games as well. Once again, thanks so much for joining. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. I'll see you all next time on the Sports Dude Hines Show.